Hello, and welcome to the Survivor's Mic podcast. I am just so glad that we are on episode 2. And this is definitely going to be a story for another day, but there's a reason why I say that it's actually a celebration to have the fact that we're on episode 2 because it took a whole year to launch this podcast. But anyway, today I want to talk about something that we probably don't talk about quite enough. And I want you to imagine yourself sitting opposite me on a table in a cafe, and we are trying to come up with words as to how we are perceived out there whenever we are trying to tell our story. So, this is a survivor to survivor situation. And let's just talk about how much everything around us can put so much effort to silence us, to give you that impression that what you really went through might not be the way that you explain it, or it might not be how you perceive it. You know, when you have to deal with questions like, was it really that bad? Were they really that bad? Did they really say that or do those things to you? And I want you to imagine how you feel every time something like that is happening to you. And I want you to remember that we are having this conversation not to trigger or to bring back the memories that has been so painful in our lives, but in a sense that helps us step by step to get to a place of not shutting it down, but coming to remembrance and being able to know how to go about our feelings during that moment. So there's one scenario that I want you to remember where you have been or you have felt under pressure to explain yourself. You are supposed to give context. You are reminded of how grateful you should be that you are still alive. You are reminded about how it's a normal thing to grow up as, in a blended family. You're not the first person to go through whatever you go through. It's not that bad. Be grateful. Don't talk about that. There's one memory that I have where, and it happened just last year, where somebody really looked at me and told me that there's no way I could go through something like that. You know, when people have a different narrative because they don't live your life belongs to you, but they still go ahead and tell you how what is possible and what is not possible. You know, how you should explain to people to make it reasonable. Otherwise, it sounds like it's something that would never happen to any human being, right? And as we go, the more we will have conversations, you will realize that, and I know that there are some people are probably like me where you feel like your life is too much. You feel like, okay, I can't talk anymore at this point because the more I'm talking, the more it feels like everything I'm saying is not true because you've just gone through one series after the other of different kinds of things that you had to deal with, that you had to survive, that you had to better with as you lived your life, right? So how do you come to a place of realizing that the more we tell our stories, the more we still have to train ourselves on how to deal with people's reactions, right? Which again, you and I know that it's already a lot of work to be where we are right now. It's not funny, but it's a lot of work, right? To prepare your mind, to perceive things, to receive feedback, right? And so where does those comments, where does things like that take you? What kind of place do those comments take you to? It is really a place that you know personally that you don't want to be. And guess what we do? We become quiet. We don't talk about it anymore, right? We don't we don't want to be seen as those people who are always going out there making it seem like they go through the most than other people. And so we shut down. We don't talk about it anymore because we just feel so misunderstood. And really, we live in a time where even if we were to put ourselves on the other side of the coin and be that other person who is listening, most people just really don't know. Most people really don't know how to react. They don't know how to comfort you, if it's comforting at all. And we live in these days where you really have to be conscious about what you say and what you do, because the era that we live in, you could easily trigger people. So if you look at both sides of the coin, you have every right to express yourself when it comes to the life of being a survivor, right? And then the other person on the other side, they could also be justified for the actions that they are trying to express in the mindset of comforting a friend, comforting a lover, comforting a family friend, right? But it doesn't take away the fact that you cannot come to a place of measuring and qualifying what is painful and what is not. The way we survive and everything that we go through, we can't have footnotes for that. Our bodies, our brain, they remember things that we might not be able to put into words. And so sometimes, honestly, it's okay to not have words for it. And it's okay to not being able to explain it and to not being able to even understand what it is, right? But here's what I want to say today. You have every right to own your story. It is yours. It can be taken away from you. You can't be explaining it, and you can't be justifying and explaining to people what they possibly don't understand. And if in the event that you choose silence, how does that work for you? Because we are different people, and there are people in some cases where the more you are silent, the more you are quiet, the more it becomes too much for you to handle. I'm one of those people. And I've done it for years until I just came to a place of realization that I might need to talk to people. I don't quite like that, but I would need to talk to people, right? So, one of the things that will be important to realize in this case is we share selectively, right? So, how deep can we go? With who? When? At what point? There are moments where if there's just so much activity happening in your life, maybe you're chasing your career, or you just recently became a parent, or you lost a lover, or a close relative or parent passed. That's just not the season where, in as much as we want to share with others, it's very difficult because we ourselves, we can't even gather our thoughts in that moment. We cannot define our feelings. We don't know where we are, right? So you share selectively, you share in a timely manner. You choose how you go about the way you share. You can protect what's dear to you, you can protect what's tender. You know the parts that can't be touched, and it's okay. And I'm not talking about, because sometimes we want to measure, we want to say, oh, I've been carrying this for 3 decades already. And then you come to a season of wanting to talk. But one thing to realize there is, unpacking everything at once might not be possible. And if it's overdone, it takes us back to a place that we never want to be, right? And this could happen at any stage of life. It could be 60, and still you cannot unpack what happened when we were 12 years old, right? And it's okay to be like that. Even if you step into therapy, you know, and you don't feel like it, then you don't feel like it. You don't have to share just because we had a session today and the appointment was already set and we are supposed to have the conversations, because if the conversations are not yet prepared to come out, then they are not coming out. There is no need to explain that except just walking out of the therapist's office, and it's okay. It's okay. My hope really is that even professionals are in a place of understanding, because at the same time we live in a world where you pay for it. To start with, you get into therapy, you pay for the efforts of wanting to be whole, the efforts of wanting to be healed. And if you want to really look at it, it's just a matter of training the mind on how to live with things and memories, and how you trained yourself to live your whole life in survival mode. But this is not something that is going to be healed like, okay, we just sealed this wound, we are moving on, everything else is forgotten. It's a process, and it's a process that could take our whole lives to do and to go through. So there's really, really no reason to explain this. It comes in stages. It is dealt with in stages, and it heals and it gets better in stages and with time. So these were my thoughts on episode 2. And even though I still have examples and scenarios to talk about, this is something that we will keep on talking about. It's an ongoing conversation. And as we go, some examples will come up. Some people will also come up to explain this. And in the future, I'm also going to bring, fellow survivors who have survived things that we might actually think that we are the only ones going through it, until somebody's sitting on the other side and they're telling us how it was and where they are now. And I think that is very important to bring on. And I will also bring, professionals who can take us through this journey. And as I always say, ever since the beginning of this podcast, this is not replacement for therapy. I'm not a therapist myself. I'm a survivor. That's why I'm here to have these conversations with you, because we get to understand each other But at the same time, I do acknowledge that there are professionals who do know how things can be handled better. And so that's what I intend to bring. And I would also want to say that if you have a story and you have worked on it, and let this sink in, right? You have come to a place of being able to talk about it, not all of it, but at least you can sit before people and you can say, this is what I went through. It's painful. It was painful. I'm working on it, but I'm able to share and to talk about it. Feel free to send through your stories. I will not name anybody's name that are not willing to be named, but I just want us as a community to be able to share our stories, to be able to hold space for each other, and to just help somebody else with somewhere else. And they're still in that season, that dark place that you used to be. And it just gets to help them. It gets to just give them this thought that it's going to be over, and it's possible to walk away from that, and it's possible to heal from that, right? So this was our episode 2. And I want to say to you that you are just great as you are. It doesn't matter how your story can be perceived. It's not dramatic. It's not exaggerated. It's your story. You are not weak. That's why you are here. That's why you get to listen to this and you prepare yourself and you hold on, even in the moments that you are triggered by things that are said by other people, that are said on this podcast, or those who are around you, even without them knowing that they are triggering you. But you are training yourself to live with who you are, to embrace all of you. Because even everything you survived, it's part of who you are. So all of that is allowed to exist without any explanation. Survivors, we are taking this one day at a time, one step at a time, and one conversation at a time. And I'll see you next week.